Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. I'm not sure you can be mentally after watching the back of the Tottenham Hotspur's performance there up at Old Trafford. Just before we start, a little bit of housekeeping. Both me and Vass suffering from a bit of the man cold at the moment, so there will be some husky Rod Stewart voices on the line. Unfortunately, we're battling away, unlike some of our players tonight, on the back of that appalling performance up at Old Trafford. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Last Word on Spurs. If you're listening to us for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We are, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And as the comments have said here, yeah, lots of shouting, lots of anger tonight on the back of what we've just witnessed. And we've got three great returning guests offering that word we haven't heard for a long time on Last Word on Spurs, therapy. Therapy's back on Last Word on Spurs. Joining me first up is he's the instructor, conductor of just an absolutely crazy shot-out train at the moment. Lee McQueen's back. Lee, what have we just witnessed over the course of 94 and a bit minutes?
Well, I was going to swear, sorry, I might do. We're way over the watershed, aren't we? So sorry, younger viewers and listeners, but that was fucking appalling. Absolutely woeful from start to finish. And the only person that can hold their head high is Hugo Lloris, other than his passing as well, by the way, which was also shite. But look, I'm sure we'll get into it. I mean, Lee McQueen, speechless. I mean, come on. I would say that is worse than the Burnley away match from last year. I thought it was absolutely woeful. Now, I know that everyone wants me to get into the fact that Conte's got to go, or we didn't sign this person, we didn't sign that, and I'm sure you boys will love getting into transfer window, even though it's way gone or way ahead. But tonight, just about analysing the game from start to finish, it was shocking, absolutely shocking. And that needs to be a wake-up call because, some people have already been saying it's not sustainable and this, that, and the other. Well, you can't play like that. You can't go away to any team and go, here's 30 shots. Do you fancy it? Terrible.
Yeah, listen, this is going to be a difficult show. And again, I think what we have to put out there is that you guys, we obviously love providing post-match analysis on Last Word on Spurs. And obviously the key is when we win, it's fantastic. And we obviously love doing the shows. When we lose, it's probably the toughest kind of shows to do in the world. And I'm lucky to be joined by a really good panel tonight that I hope we can offer some really fair balance, but also tell it as it is. Because I think, again, on the back of that performance, it is going to be very hard to find many positives, if any positives, on the back of a really, really poor display. And then brings me next to welcoming back on the show, Vass from the Doctor Tottenham podcast. Vass, I feel really sorry for you, mate. You've had a really, really poor run of Last Word on Spurs games this season. And I promise you, I've tried my best to kind of balance them out. And it don't come any easier, mate. So I appreciate you if you won't come back on after this.
Well, it's not your fault, obviously, Ricky, but I must be a bad omen. I'm going to have to stop coming on. Yeah, that was just dismal, wasn't it? I think I tweeted a little earlier, every unspoken fear that we had about our side got exposed tonight. And it was gutless. It really was. I thought we kind of started the game okay. Bentancur got through and had a shot when he could have crossed. And then there was a couple of other good moments. But really, the first touches were off all night. The simple passes weren't being made, and we just at some point thought, we'll let them have the ball and we'll be able to counter on them and get our opportunity. But all that did was just give them confidence. It was just shocking performance.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to get into it, as painful as it is going to be. Joining us, making up the panel tonight, delighted to have him back on. It's never easy. I think it's Matty's first defeat after review on Last Word on Spurs, and what a defeat. You have to try and pick the bones out of it. Matt, love to have you on. Difficult display. Hard to really sum any positives out of that. Is it really, Matt?
Yeah, no, he said it a minute ago. If we can take any positives, I don't think we can, really. It was... I don't want to be too negative right off the bat, but it was the lack of fight and the lack of desire that was the worst for me. The commentator that we had on Premier Sports in Ireland, he made the point that there's a way to lose games, and the bit that not so much angered me the most, but kind of shocked me the most was right at the end when Lloris made that unbelievable save from Marcus Rashford, kind of down close to his left. Romero, he went in a challenge on Rashford, and Rashford kind of got the break of the ball, and Romero kind of sat in the ground and threw his hands up in the air. Then Højbjerg recovered the situation, gave the ball to Romero. Romero lost the ball again Fred was running into the box and Romero was kind of walking after him. And like this is the man who flies into challenges almost unhinged at times. This is the man who will, absolutely clatter Richarlison down by the corner flag just to show a bit of passion. And he's kind of walking in a situation here, we're 2-0 down, 10 minutes to go. And that, aside from the performance, aside from quality, aside from tactics, aside from formation, to see something like that happening was quite painful to witness. But again, I'm sure we'll pick the bones in a bit of more detail.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a couple of super chats about in here. This is from Bedknobs, who says, if this was Jose, you'd be calling for his job. Now, I think we've all stressed at points on... I don't think you want to go into that there. We've all stressed at points...
Who would be, though, Bedknobs and Brooms? Who? Like all of us, or like who would be calling for his job?
Yeah, I mean, again, we have to point a point. We are still... listen, regardless of that horrendous performance tonight, and no one can get away from how horrendous it was. Terrible display, gutless... across the park, poor passing. We have to still remember Spurs are still, in a position in the Premier League where we're still in touching distance of the top. I'm not here saying that Spurs are in a title race, because I never ever thought Spurs have been in the title race. But there is this almost concerning reoccurring theme with Tottenham that we've got world-class players. Some of them are world-class. We've got international players that have been there, done it, won it. But we have this reoccurring theme where against the top six away from home, we just simply freeze. And regardless of who's been here, we cannot seem to find a way of being able to deal psychologically and mentally with that. And that's casting, obviously, Liverpool and City aside last season where we did get results. So, listen, we're going to be honest. We're going to be upfront on last one on Spurs. But at the same time, I think, again, we just want to retain a little bit of realism of where Spurs are right now. But at the same time, being honest, that certain things have to change if Spurs are going to try and find a way of making it sustainable across the season. Joe here says, flat track bullies. We've had 8 years of Dyer and Davis, and they're still here. The board have invested top four and nothing more. We deserve more. I will say tonight, the fans that have travelled deserve much more than that tonight, most certainly. Simply not good enough, and we are going to get into it, I promise. But just a reminder, if you do need reminding, we have to obviously include them. We are delighted to be sponsored by the Beavertown Corner Pin. That is the Beavertown Bank opposite your south stand. Now, of course, we have got some live shows coming your way. We've also got some Christmas shows hopefully coming your way as well. I know you won't feel like it right now, but again, I say lots of content coming your way from Beavertown Brewery, and you can still book tickets right now. I know you won't feel like it right now, but for Marseille to come in the Champions, you can watch it live from Beavertown. And I appreciate right now, the last thing you're going to want to do is watch Tottenham. And I totally appreciate that. And I know it's tough. So thank you so much as always. We've got about 600, 700 of you already taking in the therapy here on Last Word on Spurs. And I can tell you, it won't be an easy night for me and the boys to have to dissect that. But Lee, listen, let's kick off with you. It was only 2-0, but perhaps the most comprehensive and comfortable United win they'll have all season. And the scoreline really does flatter to deceive on that one, because not only were we severely lacking in composure and control, but we deserved absolutely zero from that game. And the only one I feel really sorry for is Hugo Lloris, who you said, despite, of course, his distribution, he made some really top saves, but a night where it could have been at least 7, 8, 9, that wouldn't have been unflattering to Tottenham. A really poor night overall.
Yeah, I mean, there was cool, I was getting kind of flashbacks when De Gea had that unbelievable gaming goal for them. Remember at Wembley, we lost 1-0. Rashford scored, and De Gea was unreal that night. I think we had something like 10, 11 shots on target, and we couldn't score. And at some point, I was thinking, hang on, this might be the same. It might be the same for us the other way around, because I thought Lloris was outstanding tonight. Other than, like I said, some of his distribution. A load of us, including myself, was calling for the 3-5-2. We wanted to see the 3-5-2. We got to see the 3-5-2. It was abysmal, the 3-5-2 tonight. Again, it reminded me of the unbelievable triangle midfield three of Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, Ndombele and Lo Celso when we was all screaming for that. And then we finally got it in that game, and it was woeful. And I don't think it ever got seen again, that midfield three. I'm not quite sure what that happened with the 3-5-2, but it's really difficult because, you can, and there are loads of comments going on. The people that are on the audio will be listening back, when this goes live tomorrow, and on your runs and on your work trips and whatever. You can analyse the season so far. You can analyse, what we did in the summer, what we need to do in January. But if you're just analysing the game, we were shit, like literally rubbish. credit to Manchester United as well, because I thought they were excellent. Manchester United tonight was everything that I think a lot of us Tottenham fans want to see Spurs play like. They were on the front foot. They were fast. They were at the challenge. They were pressing. Their 1-2 touch football. I mean, there was a couple of times in the first half in particular where Tottenham got hold of the ball and pinged it. Good couple of moves. And I was thinking, oh, hello, we could go here. Maybe the first 15, 20 minutes or so, they wasn't all over us. But we played a 3-5-2 almost with the same mentality as when we play a 3-4-3. But of course, we've only got 2 strikers up top, not 3 strikers up top in a different formation. We were very deep. We sat back. We sat in at some points. It was a 5-3-2. I mean, Kane and Son were marked really well. I thought Varane and little fellow, what's his name, Martinez, I thought they were very good. But equally, none of our players showed up tonight, Rick, viewers and listeners and the panel. And it's disappointing. It was appalling performance.
Yep.
And I think there needs to be some context. I don't think I can't have this being a moan fest the whole time. So if everyone wants to moan, I'm going to be the one that brings some balance later on. But, I saw a stat from the Tottenham feed, good friend of the show, the Tottenham feed earlier this week that said, I think we played 38 Premier League games before tonight under Conte now and amassed 79 points, 124, drawn 7, lost 7 with a goal difference of plus 48, which quite frankly is staggering. Like if you think about that from the start of last season until obviously previous today, there needs to be some balance around that. Every team has a bad game in them, a real bad game. We've just had ours. Let's hope now we don't have another one for the next 15, 16 games. But I'm not so sure. I think there needs to be some triage and there needs to be a little bit of tweaking rather than ripping it up and start again. So a lot of people's passion tonight about Conte in or Conte out. Let me tell you, and I'm not an expert, but I tell you this now: if Conte goes, Kane goes, half the team goes. This is a ripping it up and starting again. We are nowhere near that scenario. We are more closer. Unfortunately, I disagree with you, Rick, but we are more closer to winning at something and being able to challenge on the consistency basis than we are ripping it up and starting again. I didn't hear, and I do this show a lot with you, mate, as you know, I didn't hear any grumblings whatsoever last season about style of play. I didn't hear it. I'm hearing it now all the time. I'm hearing it from the mainstream media. I'm hearing it from here. I'm hearing it from my friends. I'm hearing it from all my WhatsApp groups. I didn't hear it at all last season. So it is a tough watch. There's no doubt. And when we lose, I think somebody said it earlier. I forgot your name, buddy. Sorry. But when we lose playing this sort of Conte ball, it's bloody horrific. It is hard work, isn't it? It's hard work. But
Absolutely.
you get over the line with a 1-0 or 2-0, it's all right. But we had 2 shots on target, lads, viewers, listeners. 2 shots.
I am going to bring up, I'm going to bring up the stats in a second. Vass, just want to come over to you. Look, I mean, as bad as Spurs have been for some time, and I think Dan Kilpatrick put it really, really well, is that, there's an element of Spurs not having that plan B, and we're a year now into Conte's rebuild, and bar the City and Liverpool games aside, where Spurs obviously picked up a win at City last season, respectively, and got a point at Anfield, it just felt like another game where Spurs, they didn't really feel like they were ever going to get anything from it. And you thought the way Spurs set up, you think United were 14 points clear at the top, but they've not been that great this season. I know obviously they've got results, don't get me wrong. They beat Arsenal, of course, at home, but they've just come off the back of a 0-0 to Newcastle. And it just seems that, Vass, we're approaching these games as a back foot team rather than a team that, if you look at tonight, we had the opportunity this evening to go 10 points clear of Manchester United. And if you looked at us, you thought, who's in a relegation battle at times, Vass?
People are always looking for quick answers as to what's going wrong. And as much as Conte has his faults, whether it be with his system or style of play or whatever, at some point, you have to start pointing fingers at players. And players tonight, you would expect them to actually drive on and try and do something more positive than they were doing. There were moments in the game where it looked like a breakaway was on, and we'd get to the final third, and for some reason we'd be checking out, bringing the ball back, and the ball would end up with Dyer or Romero, and we're starting again. Now, okay, that maybe is a Conte tactic. You have to be careful and try and get the ball into where it needs to go. Otherwise, you cycle out. But our play is getting stifled. More importantly, though, I think where I'm trying to say about the players, I mentioned earlier, first touches tonight were awful. There was balls bouncing off of our players and going straight to Man United players. Simple passes. Højbjerg, Bentancur, they were all culpable. It was few of them were. They were just not reaching their intended targets. All the passes were getting cut out. And we have this problem whenever we get pressed by another team. And I think Man United knew that. And they were on the front foot, like you said, Rick. And they made us panic and they got us nervous. But to try and have context, as you said earlier, a friend of some that tweets on Twitter, he said Arsenal's only loss was away versus United. Liverpool lost to Arsenal and United away. Chelsea are yet to play a top side away. United lost away to City. City lost away to Liverpool. Spurs have lost away to Arsenal and United. It seems as though the big six aren't stepping up and winning these away games at the moment. And we are as culpable as all the others. So that's the only positive thing I'd say. But generally, the performance was awful.
Vass, just quickly on that, if I can just quickly come in. Sorry, I know come around to Matty, but and not normally my Mr. Optimistic self, like I would say, you know what, yeah, that's fair, and they are statistics and they're facts and they're right, but it's the manner in which we went about it.
Absolutely
awful. And these players, the manager, the whole thing stunk. The whole thing tonight stunk. And like you can go and get beaten away at Old Trafford. Literally no shame in that. Jesus, they've been battering us for 30 odd years in the Premier League, but beating us. Sorry, but to get ruined the way we did by let's be honest. And I said this on the WhatsApp group in the week. United are poor. They're not a good side. They're not brilliant, and that is the best they've played the whole season.
Oh yeah, they were at their best today, no doubt about it. They haven't played like that all season.
Can I ask you, are you worried that when a lot of teams play us, they seem to be having one of their best halves of the season, if not their best performances right now? And we keep on saying Spurs are gonna at some point click. They are gonna at some point click. But are we worried that they're not going to click? Because we haven't seen them click, and we're now, 9-10 games in. I'm not trying to be defeatist, but that is a massive alarming concern right now. And we are going to bring in Antonio Conte's post-match comments in a second. But before we do, Matty, I want to come round to you. As I've said, there does seem to be this recurring theme. Spurs have got some really, really good players in that team. Arguably, you'd say some of them are world-class. We've got players that have won World Cups. We've got players that have won titles in other countries, that have won the Euro Championships. But for whatever reason, when we go away from home against the likes of Arsenal at the Emirates, again, United at Old Trafford, we seem to completely freeze and not want to take the opposition on. Do you have an answer, Matt, as to why Spurs are just so abject away in these traditional top 4, top 6 teams? We can't seem to break that mentality regardless of who the manager is.
It's genuinely baffling. And it has to just surely come down to the culture of the club, the culture within the dressing room. But like, I remember a decade ago, when we were in the Champions League with Harry Redknapp, we'd go to Liverpool and we'd lose 5-0. We'd go to the Etihad, we'd lose 6-1. We'd go to United, we'd lose 5-3. Like the only person, maybe Hugo Lloris, how long is he here? 9-10 years. Everyone else is different. From Conte to his coaching staff to the players, absolutely everything is different. But that mentality and that culture, again, I'll use that word, is still there. And I don't think there's a reason that we can really actually pull from that, because it's like everything is different. And you can look at the game tonight and it's easy to say it's Conte's fault, it's the style of play, or it's the defender's fault. It's easy to blame individual things. But for me tonight, everything was wrong. Everything. Conte in the way we set up, Conte in the lack of subs and in the lack of game management. The players, like Vass said, that first touch wasn't there. The lack of effort that I was talking about earlier in the day. And funnily enough, despite the fact that everything is different, if we watch us at Anfield 10 years ago, we'll say the exact same thing. We'll say the players weren't on it that day. We'll say the manager got it wrong. We'll say the subs are wrong. It's the exact same thing. And it's just absolutely baffling how it keeps on happening. But I don't think the answer is to get rid of the manager. I don't think the answer is a complete upheaval of the squad, because we're in the middle of trying to build a Conte squad, and we can give out about the style of play. And again, I do think the approach to this game was wrong tonight. But Vass mentioned there when Arsenal went to Old Trafford and they lost that game, where they 1 or 2-0 down, Arteta went a bit more expansive. He put some more attacking players out in the wing-back positions. He went for it. He got criticised for the way he went for that. So we got we're being criticised for being defensive when we're losing to United. They're being criticised for being offensive. You know, just going straight to saying the style of play is the absolute reason and is the be-all and end-all, I just think is an easy way out. We've won games this season where we played like that, and we've been complimented. We loved nothing more than that draw at Stamford Bridge. It was one of the best kind of most passionate moments I'd say we have this season. Did we not play the exact same way there? You know, it does come down to the results. Yeah, it does come down to the results, and that's what I'll say to the comment a while ago that we'd be calling for Jose Mourinho's head. We were calling for him to be sacked. Well, I personally was. I don't know about you guys, but I was calling for him to be sacked because the performances weren't there, but also the results weren't there. It wasn't just simply because we weren't playing good football. We were losing games of football. We were throwing away 1-0 leads like it was the greatest thing in the world. You know, there's way more that needs to be taken into consideration, simply like more than Conte is too defensive. There's so much more to that. And the culture of the club, maybe that is a reason, but I really, really don't see how it just keeps on happening under Redknapp, under Poch, under Jose. Obviously, with the exclusion of some, big wins at City, the 6-1 at United. It's not every single game it happens, but it's the same story, the same conversation.
Yeah. There isn't a mentality issue there.
Just on that as well, mate. I think you bang on the money, absolutely spot on. But what's interesting about that is that we go to the Etihad under all them other managers and we win. It's completely bizarre, and it's just, maybe that's just football. Maybe the reactions that we've got here, and that's why we love football. It is, one of our greats once said, it's a funny old game. Maybe that is it. It's just the football, and that's just the way it is. But it's really hard to take because we were shit.
I mean, I must just add one thing. To put it in a context as well. We've had 7 wins this season coming over to you, Vass. 6 of them against sides in the bottom half, including the bottom 4 of the table. I mean, how much do we buy into the fact Spurs have had a good start, but really in the big test now we've had the Emirates and now United, we've come up short in both of those games and haven't really put an imprint on the game. And I think, again, the main concern tonight is that the passing, Vass, if I'm being honest, the passing was woeful at times. And despite even having that extra man in midfield, it done absolutely nothing in order for Spurs to actually retain the ball. Højbjerg, Bentancur, both of them giving the ball away so easily. And at times, Bissouma, who, listen, I know Anthony cost a massive part of the show and obviously part of Last Word on Spurs. We both called to have Bissouma in this Spurs side in the summer. But he looked completely out of his depth tonight in there, Vass. And again, that's a player that I'm sure will have a great future at Tottenham, but completely out of his depth tonight, Vass. Can you put a finger on it why we've gone with 5 in that midfield and we still look outnumbered at times?
Yeah, the reason for that is because the 3-4-3, when we haven't got the ball, turns into 5-4-1. The wing backs drop in the full back positions, 2 of the attacking players drop in the midfield. You become 5-4-1, you look a lot more solid. Today, playing 3-5-2, when we didn't have the ball, that turned into 5-3-2, right? So that just left 3 people in the midfield, and Man United were able to slide those balls into the gaps in midfield and turn away and leave our midfielders stranded. So there was a lot going on tonight. I think we were all calling for the 3-5-2 because it gives us, or at least it seemed as though it gave us a better attacking intent. But unfortunately, it stifled some of what's good about Bentancur and Højbjerg. It stuck them out on the right and left of midfield rather than being in the middle. And consequently, we were making poor passes from those positions. So there's something to be said about the formation. But ultimately, I think it's a mindset. I think the thing is that we go to these games and, off the back of a decent win against Everton at the weekend, we probably went up there with Man United not being in great form, thinking that all we had to do is turn up. And sometimes that gets us. That's the thing that gets us all the time. You mentioned the Arsenal game that we lost, Ricky. But I think even in that game, I felt we were in the game, even at 2-1 down on that occasion. And the sending off just happened to change everything. But tonight, like Lee said, it was shocking everywhere. I mean, even Kane, apart from one crossfield ball that he played to Doherty, he couldn't barely get the ball under control or make a pass. Sonny was awful again. Dyer got exposed. Davies got exposed. I mean, Romero, after about 70 minutes, was running around the pitch like a headless chicken and chasing players into the midfield and vacating his spot behind him. Totally reckless. And, yeah, we just didn't have it. And being 2-0 down, okay, you expect Conte to do something different and go for it. And we didn't get that. We didn't get a reaction from the manager. We didn't get a reaction from the players. They were still trying to take their time with the ball. There was no urgency. And it's just unacceptable. It was weak tonight. It was really weak.
Again, I don't think anybody watching this or on this panel tonight can put up an excuse at all for what we've seen tonight. Again, I just think we're just trying to be open and honest with a bit of rational behind it. Because again, I have to reiterate the point. Last word on Spurs straight after a game is never easy. And Lee McQueen there comforting himself with a packet of something. I want to ask him what Lee Joe on the screen, it says, you shook your head at my top 4 in it comment, but I think it's fair. They haven't done enough under multiple managers, not having a pop. Great panel, lads. And I think, Joe, I've said, listen, I've been honest and said that on numerous occasions that for me personally, that I always think Spurs going into a window, and it's probably not the time to discuss this because, again, we're going on the back of the game here.
My head, Joe. It's not that I don't agree with it in
context
overall, but it's every time. I've done this show now for how long, Rick? I don't know, 3 years?
5 years. 5 years, yeah.
Whatever it is, right? A good few years. And every time I come on it, audio or YouTube or Twitter or whatever it is, the reaction is mental. Like, it is mad. It's like it goes from, yeah, we're pretty good. Yeah, we're good. We're ticking on nicely to, we're absolutely rubbish. Let's get rid of it. I mean, there needs to be some balance. That's all. I'm not saying Joe's going over the top, but tonight's defeat cannot be a Nink's fault. Like, it can't be a Nink's fault because, you know, Conte's picked the team and they've got the team over a long period of time, underfunding the club and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, you could have that. Not even a debate. I think is probably quite fair, to be fair. But to bring it out now, like to try, what we try and do as human beings is we try and blame something. We need to blame something out. And, you know, if we can't blame Conte because we actually quite like him, some of us, then actually who else can we blame? You know, the reality of the situation is it's football, and we had a shocking night at the office. Now we might go unbeaten now for the next 13 games, and before you start at me and giving it large, that's what we've just done, by the way, right? Do you know what I mean? So it might be the case, but I think that, and I'm not saying Joe, I'm not saying individuals, but there's a lot of people that just jump on it because of the anger that's in there, and it doesn't need to be that way. It just needs to be analyze what happened tonight. We didn't turn up at all, apart from Lloris, and we were shocking. It'd be a short show if we just did this bit, by the way, Rick. So I'm not saying it'd be actual, but I know you're always conscious of time. But ultimately, there you go.
Let's give an eye for Vass, yeah.
But and that's what Carl's saying on screen now. We do expect to lose some games, but can't accept that level of performance. And I agree, and that's what I'm saying. But we can't, just because we've lost a football match away from home, under lights, at Old Trafford, in front of 76,000 people that were on it tonight. We can't sit there and overreact. Guys, get off, listeners. Come on.
I say overreact. I am just about to share the stats for the game, which will probably then send everyone to a frenzy. So please forgive me. I am going to bring these up on the screen right now as I come over to Matty next. Now, again, you can see them down your side there, the actual stats. It doesn't make great reading at all whatsoever. United, this is for listeners on audio, 28 shots to 8. 19 of those shots come in the first half. 10 shots on target for United, 2 on target for Tottenham, 7 fouls apiece, 1 yellow card. And then we saw 3 offsides in the favour of Manchester United, 52% possession to 49. If I'm being honest with you, that doesn't really tell the moral of the story. It's such these stats really, the 2.15 of XG to 0.32. Maybe he's accurate really in the basis of just how little Spurs created in the element of those 94 minutes. Simply not enough. We have just heard a little snippet from Antonio Conte, who's just come out for some TV interviews, and he has said, United show today they are much better than us, and I consider United a really good team. Thoughts on that for you, Matty, those comments from Antonio Conte?
Surprising.
What else? Can he say anything else?
Well, I mean, I don't think, all things considered, United are a better team than us. Which tonight we made them look like a better team than us. But if you're looking at the course of the season so far, if you're looking at the players at our disposal, if you're looking at balance within the best 11 that we have available, I think we're better than Man United. It sounds a ridiculous thing to say after.
I said it earlier, Matt.
I mean,
is that the most frustrating thing, Matt? You've just said there. You think, collectively as a team, we're better than Man United, but we set up against Man United, as I said earlier, almost like they were running away with the league tonight. That was the most frustrating thing for me, that we've gone to United and we've not even laid a glove on them. That is the most frustrating thing for me. We've gone there and almost accepted that we're not going to win the game. And for me, as a Spurs fan, I just can't have that. I love Antonio Conte. I love a lot of these players. I love what we're trying to do, where we're going, the direction we're heading. Yes, there's an argument we're getting away with, results this season. As King Model says here, you can't allow 28 shots at this level, and I totally agree, especially 19 in the first half. But ultimately, Matt, I just think we've got to have a plan B, haven't we? We can't just accept, like tonight again, at 2-0, game is gone. And I agree with Richard here. Do we even have any gloves? I don't know where the gloves are, Rich. I don't know where those gloves were tonight. Do you, Matt? Where were those gloves tonight?
Yeah, for me, the more worrying thing is the lack of what we had going forward than it is how many shots United hadn't. I made this point at halftime to the dismay of quite a few people on Twitter, but I think there's a difference between 28 shots for Manchester United and the actual quality of those chances. Now, I'm not good at doing quick maths in my head, but if you're looking at 28 shots and you had, 2.15 XG for all of those goals, let me just do the maths on that one. So an average shot had an XG of 0.07. So their average shot had a 7% chance of going into the net. So you're looking at the quality of the shots. I think the stats do make for worse reading than it actually was. And again, the second half is a completely different story than the first half. There was 19 shots in the first half. The only real opportunity there was for Marcus Rashford. So I think, again, I know it might sound stupid, but the stats were a bit misleading maybe in that, because so many of their shots were from outside the box. But if you're going to Man United and you're playing the way that we are, and you're not actively, you're trying to hit in the counter-attack, like Vass said, we were slowing things down a little bit. Maybe it is the Conte style that he wants to be more precise when we do go forward. But if you're not trying to score those goals, what's the point? You're going there to not lose. We're Tottenham Hotspur. We're level on points at Manchester City. This is our best ever start to a Premier League season.
And again, Matty, I have to repeat this. Tonight we're going there. Tonight we're going there with the opportunity to go 10 points clear of Manchester United tonight. 10.
That's a belief thing, lads. And again, it's not the fans' fault, what I'm about to say, because it had no bearing on the result like the fans. But put a poll out, right, to everybody watching and listening over what nearly 1,000 of us over all of our platforms watching, listening tomorrow, the amount of downloads we get. How many people thought that we'd go to Old Trafford and win? This is the inherent problem.
There is that argument, but also
know deep down, so do the players, and so do the people keep coming to that damn football club. And maybe this is on the owners, that we all know deep down you're not confident. Deep down, no one's going. Yeah,
this is the mad thing tonight. If we set up like that, how can you be confident? If we set up like that, how can you be confident? That's the problem. We're going to set up like that. What we are going to do for Vass's sanity as well as his partner, as well as his wife's, we are going to go for our first break of the show. For our listeners and audio, for our watching audience here, listen, thank you for joining us for therapy. There's over 800 to 900 of you here across all of our platforms watching us live. Listen, we appreciate it's not easy. We appreciate Last Word on Spurs is normally here as a pickup tool once we've won, but it is a difficult night for therapy. Thank you so much. We've got the wonderful Lee McQueen, Vass Koni, Matt Hayes on Last Word on Spurs here. We are going to talk you through very quickly the 11 that Antonio Conte picked. You would have just heard from an audio listeners there in that break. Antonio Conte would have given you his reaction to the game. So Antonio Conte made just the one change to his Spurs side tonight. Conte indicated actually before the game he wanted to keep with the 3-4-3 at Old Trafford, as that is a system that he's worked with players previously. However, as Ali Gold put it in his Football London piece before, like a bit of a bluff really, is he did go for the 3-5-2. It meant Ivan Perisic remained at left wing back, while Yves Bissouma came in for the injured Richarlison to make it 3 midfielders in the centre of the park, as you can see on your screen there. Rodrigo Bentancur, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg making it up. Dejan Kulusevski remained out of the game, while on the left of the back three, Ben Davies kept his place in the side, despite Clement Longley also being fit. Matt Doherty once again beginning the opportunity to impress at right back. And again, I'll repeat, apart from Lloris, who could really say they impressed tonight? Emerson Royale serving the final match of his 3-match suspension. I'll let you decide whether that's a good or a bad thing. So Conte's side tonight lined up with Lloris, Romero, Dyer, Davis, Doherty, Bissouma, Højbjerg, Bentancur, Perisic, Kane, Son, and a bench of Forster, Spence, Tanganga, Sanchez, Longley, Sessegnon, Skip, Bryant, Lucas. Matty, I actually cut you short before we went for that break. So let me come to you, Matty. On that team, how did you feel when that was released for you, Matt?
I think the majority of us were happy with that. The majority of what I saw before this game was fans wanting the 3-5-2, wanting to get that extra man in the midfield and try and control the game from there, and then hopefully the pieces would fall into place going forward when we were able to get on that ball a little bit more, when we had an extra man in midfield. And look, it worked that way for the opening 10 or 15 minutes. I think whenever we did have possession, one of Bentancur or Bissouma were kind of able to drop into some little spaces. Bentancur maybe a bit more advanced, and we were able to get on the ball and we were able to move it forward. But I don't know if we changed something or if Ten Hag changed something, but immediately once United stopped it the first time, it just didn't happen again. You know, they managed to nullify what we were doing there straight away. One thing that I said straight from the start is we had no width defensively. So usually where you would have that 5-4-1, which I know we kind of did to some extent, but there was a lot of times that it was a very, very noticeable 5-3-2, and there was just so much space for Shaw and Dalot, who admittedly aren't the best players in the world. You know, you wouldn't be terrified to give them the ball, but when you have it so many times, when you have someone like Anthony who's up against a player like Perisic, who admittedly has never been the strongest defender, there's going to be problems and things are going to go wrong. Again, I know a lot of us fans would have been happy with this approach to the game when it came out to 3-5-2 or 5-3-2. I was wrong. I don't know if you were. If you were wrong. But Conte, let's just get, maybe he was wrong for the start. He needed to be able to change something. And look, we're unlucky with the fact that Kulusevski and Richarlison are both out injured together. You know, we have 4 incredible forwards. There is an element of bad luck when those players are out injured. But there was nothing from Conte until, what was it, 70, 72 minutes until he made a sub. You know, we could all see that things weren't going to go our way with, say, 10 minutes into that second half. It was completely off the rails. Conte needs to be able to change something, and he needs to be able to trust in the players like Lucas and like Brian Hill. I don't think they're going to go out there and I don't think Lucas is going to do what he did in Amsterdam. I don't think Gil is going to do what Son did against Burnley a couple of years ago. But tactically, that game was completely out of our reach. It was completely in Man United's favour. And Conte needed to be able to make that decision to trust the players that he has at his disposal. Because honestly, in a situation like that, he had no other choice. The other choice was damage limitation, which he went for, which sets an absolutely awful precedent. He did it against Arsenal. He's done it again now. Is that what we are? Is that the team we are? As soon as the game is out of reach, we're just going to accept that?
That is the worrying thing, isn't it? I mean, if we can't forget Leicester last season, Spurs were, going to lose that game, and we scored twice in a matter of minutes with Bergwijn, and we turned the game on its head. But you do feel, I mean, I can only certainly say how I feel when the substitutions so far being made. Vass, coming over to you again, against obviously Manchester United and against Arsenal. There's no real belief in those sides that I've seen when we've conceded goals that we're going to come back and even get anything from the game. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think he doesn't trust his bench. I mean, on the bench today, he's got Lucas, Brian Hill. Who was the other attacking player?
So on that bench, he had Lucas, Hill, Skip.
Yeah, there's no attacking players really.
Sessegnon as a wing back.
Yeah. I mean, for a guy who's so reliant on a system that requires quality wing backs, I think that's one thing that we're still lacking. Doherty and Emerson are pretty much of a muchness. I don't know if Spence is ready, but maybe he needs to trust him more.
This is what kills me, Vass. It kills me, this Vass. I was sorry to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. It kills me that people criticising me in the summer for saying we need like a number 10 or someone to play in between the lines. Because I said it was either going to be one way or two ways. A lot picker. But what frustrates me, Vass, is that this system of Conte's ultimately relies on the wing backs. That's what it relies on, and it relies on you being absolutely perfect in possession and with the ball. And if you're not none of those things, the whole thing falls down, as we've seen tonight.
Yeah, I think tonight's problems were a lot more than just the wing backs, but I think we do need upgrades there. I'm not sold on Perisic. I'm sorry, I haven't been sold on him all season. He was a fantastic player in his prime. I don't think we're getting that now. I mean, he's probably good to have around the squad, and he's helping Sessegnon. I actually prefer for us to start with Sessegnon, if I'm honest, on the left. But there's just too much. There was too much going wrong tonight, and I think the players' demeanour and their body language wasn't saying much either. It was so tepid throughout the side. We were never going to get back in that game. We just let Manchester United get into a groove, and we did nothing to disrupt them, nothing to get them out of the groove. We tried to control possession for a little while so they didn't have the ball and take the heat out of the game.
Yeah,
but that lasted a little while, and we just handed it straight back to them because we were so poor.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, Lee, listen, we had so many listener questions coming. I promise you, we are going to just read a flavour of them out very, very shortly. But just want to recap Lee, that first half. And for Vass, for your bad happy. It's very, very brief. This Vass.
Stop blaming this on me, mate. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Lee, come over to you. First half, we had Bentancur, a nice low shot to begin with, and then almost a real costly mistake from Lloris. Fumbled it past his post, and then we had literally it was a battering ram for Lloris at one point. We had big save to deny Rashford, then another save as he pushed over Fernandez's free kick. He then makes a flying save to deny Shaw's. And I think this is the most damning stat of all. Lloris made more saves, Lee, in that opening 25 minutes tonight, which was 5, as he did in the wins over Southampton, Forest, Fulham, and Everton. That was 4 combined this season. So if you need to know how dominant United were in the first half, there it is for you in one stat. Outrageous, isn't it, Lee?
It's an outrageous start, but if you look at it from an optimistic side, it means that we're not facing that many shots in the previous games, so we must have been doing something right. Do you know what I mean? Like, so you can.
I trust you to turn it on its head. Trust you.
Yeah, just before I turn it on its head. But no, it is a damning stat. I mean, like we said, we actually got battered. I just want to have a look at a part that Matty picked up earlier, and Vass continued there on the formations as well. I thought we were slow. I thought we were pedestrian. There was no one on the pitch to take control of that game. No one said, you know what, this needs to change. We need to do something about it. No one did that, I think, on the pitch. And Conte didn't do that off the pitch either. You started with 3-5-2. Like Matty said, I wanted to see it. I was wrong. Clearly, I was wrong, but I wanted to see it. I wouldn't have started Perisic. Personally, I agree with you, Vass. I would have gone with Sessegnon. I know Ali Gold picked this up earlier in his video this week, but I've done a Blue Book stat a couple of weeks ago on Son and Perisic on the pitch together. There hasn't been a goal or an assist by either of them when they've been on the same pitch together the whole season. So that's an issue, right? That's a massive issue for me. But when Cess starts, Son's a complete different player. So that's quite interesting. So you start with a 3-5-2. You see that, as Matt, you picked up earlier, the fullbacks, Delort and Luke Shaw. I think Delort was almost playing like Zinchenko. I don't particularly like John Champion's commentary, but he did say that in commentary, and I did agree with him. He was almost playing as like a midfielder, like Zinchenko or Cancelo plays. And there was loads of space there. So you think to yourself, actually, why don't in-game we change to 3-4-3? Like, because obviously the 3-5-2 wasn't working, right? So why don't we check? But nothing. We were rigid again. We didn't change anything. You talk about players on the bench. Well, yeah, you could have brought on Sessegnon and you could have brought on Lucas Moura. You could have brought on Sessegnon, gone to a 3-4-3, put Perisic up there as an attacker across the 3. Could have easily done that. He even spoke about that in his pre-match presser. Or you could have brought on Lucas Moura to make a 3 and use that as well. But again, he's not trusting the players on the bench, maybe. And that for me is madness. You've got Lucas Moura who scored a hat-trick against a Ten Hag team back in the day against Ajax, and he comes on for what, freaking 14 minutes or whatever it is. Yeah. Now I know that he might not be 100% fit, but it wasn't working. Manchester United are playing a 4-2-3-1, and so actually 2 sitting in there like they had, we could have had 2 in there today and pushed up another attacker and given them something to think about. But today we didn't give them anything to think about the other way. So they had it easy. It's probably the easiest game that they'll play all season.
And that's the most worrying thing. And if I come over to you, Matt, again, we look at that first half. After that 25 minutes where Lloris was making saves for fun, he didn't move at one point as Casemiro rushed a shot wide from range. Shots were really raining at Spurs' goal, and you really were looking for an outlet that didn't really come to relieve the pressure. I mean, there's a couple of chances in there for Spurs at, very glinting moments for Tottenham, really. Doherty cutting inside and a shot wide after a really nice pass from Kane. Spurs then got a bit of opportunities with Son cutting a shot over the bar. But as we saw, we had that ironic moment where we see Conte and Bentancur having a real slanging match on the sidelines as Bentancur gave away the ball yet again. So clearly, listen, as I said, Matt, I don't think it's all on Conte because you could tell he was very frustrated in that first half. And I don't think he obviously thought that was going to go the way it was in terms of the nature of just how far camped we were. I know there's comments here saying at one point the possession was even 90% for United, 10% for Tottenham. I don't think tonight is all on Conte. I don't think he's told us to go and set up like that. But essentially, Matt, it's a tactic that's been deployed for a lot of the season, Matt, which is why, again, it's kind of rearing its head towards Conte. Do you agree?
Yeah, I absolutely agree that's not all on Conte. Some of the players were absolutely woeful out there. I like Perisic. I think he's a really good player. I think he offers something going forward that we just have been lacking for way too long for our wing backs, lacking really since Prime, Walker and Rose, in that they can put the ball onto Kane's head. He definitely offers a lot more going forward, but we never signed him for his defensive abilities, and having to play him up against a player like Anthony tonight, who's on fantastic form, who's just enjoying his football more than anything, that was always going to be dangerous. Kane and Son again were off it. The midfield started the game well, like I said, but as soon as there was a bit of challenge there from United, they just crumbled under the pressure. As a manager, there's nothing you can do about the ball bouncing 20 yards off Harry Kane every time he tries to touch it, or Basuma, who had the touch of a trampoline for nearly all of that game. There's nothing as a manager that you can do about that. But it's, I don't really quite know how to phrase it. It's his job to get the best out of those players, obviously. But once they cross that white line and once they get onto that pitch, as much as I love the quotes from Fabregas where he was saying that Conte almost maps out a game for these players. He almost tells them exactly what he wants them to do. But when they cross that white line, he doesn't have the control to make them do that. And I think from a fan point of view, there is, with that style of play, like you said, that Conte probably didn't set us up in just parking the bus and not trying to do something going forward. But I think from a fan point of view, there is an element of needing to manage expectations in that the possession stats were bad for a lot of that game, but that's the way we play now. We're not going to go to Man United or Liverpool or Arsenal or Chelsea, City. We're not going to go and try and dominate possession. We need to play to the strengths of the players in our team. And as we saw tonight, being in possession isn't the strength of our team right now. That may be difficult to accept. Conte has told us time and time again that we're going to need 2-3 transfer windows to actually get this team to a level where it needs to be to go and compete for the title, if that is the ultimate aim of this club. So right now, the strengths of this team is to try and catch United on the break. The players just couldn't do that. The pace wasn't there. Maybe we were lacking that extra man up front. Maybe we needed a Kulusevski or a Richarlison in order to make that happen. And I see Lee there said, how can you not blame Conte? Conte is to blame partly, but the players are also to blame. It can't just be put down to one person when something as bad as that happens. And I think it's like Lee mentioned earlier, it's just human nature to want to blame someone or want to blame something. Of course, we're going to do that. But if you actually want to analyze it, if you actually want to properly look at what happened there's no one answer. If there was one answer, we go out on Sunday and we beat Newcastle 6-0 because we just fixed that one thing. Yeah. It's not that simple in football, and it's going to take time. It's going to be frustrating, but the answer isn't to abandon this project because it's hit a bit of a blip. Let's not forget, again, best start to a Premier League season, third top scorers in the Premier League this season, third top scorers in the Premier League in 2022. We're in the Champions League. We're going to get out of our group. It's not as... One of my favourite phrases is football is never as bad as it seems, but it's also never as good as it seems. And right now we do need to just take a step back and actually analyse everything with context. Tonight was awful, but it's probably not going to be that bad again this season.
I know, the more I listen to Matt, the more I feel better. I feel like
Glad I could help.
I feel-
completely
I-
agree
I-
with you.
Yeah, I
Completely
mean,
agree.
can I just come over to Vass? Vass, we've had Antonio Conte now taking places post-match press conference. I'm going to share the quotes between you and Lee to get your thoughts. Conte has said, not a good game for us. This was not the first time for us this season. The table is good, but every time we play a high-level game, we struggle. Against Chelsea, they dominated the game. Against Arsenal, we lost. And today, we lost. We have to be honest and say United deserved the win. They created chances to score. From our side, we didn't start the game, and it was really difficult because I think we made a lot of mistakes in simple things. For sure, not a good game for us. He went on to say that when the level is high, we struggle. We need to work and improve and on and off the pitch. Sometimes I hear we're a title contender. We need time. In 9 to 10 months, you can't go from 9th to the title, especially when you finish 20 points less than the leaders. Thoughts on that, Vass? Because really honest there from Conte, again, seeming to kind of put it back on the players to say, I didn't expect us to set up like that or play like that. Do you think he's passing some of that display onto the players tonight?
No, I don't think so. I think he's just trying to keep everyone grounded and really just reflect on our actual state currently. And I think he's just highlighting the fact that we needed a massive jump from where we were when Conte took us to where we want to be. And he hasn't made that jump fully yet. And he's not going to make that jump to challenge for titles just yet, because it is, as much as we hate to admit it, still a work in progress. It feels like we've been a work in progress for the last 15 years, but we've had so many stops and starts and everything else. It's like you start over again every time you get a new manager, and you're getting a new manager. Why? Because things have turned to shit. So at the starting point is always reset, and it's been reset for Conte. He's not even been here a year. And as much as people aren't happy with him right now, or with the tactics or whatever else they want to blame, like Matty said, the solution is not one thing. You don't just fix one thing and then all of a sudden you become a fantastic team. It takes a little while. Okay, so I guess that's what he's alluding to. But it sounds like he's disappointed too with the way we played and the way we competed and everything else. So there might be a little dig in there for the players to maybe do better, as it were, but that's something that they've all got to work on collectively.
Lee, let's come over to you. Conte went on to say, from the start, we didn't match this aspect. I think he's talking about, obviously, the commitment and effort. We can improve and we need to continue to work. It's right with the club to analyse with the club why, when this level is very high, we are struggling. He went on to say that on the substitution being so late, which again has been obviously a key talking point on Last Word on Spurs, he says, with Kulusevski and Richarlison out injured, it was difficult to change the game. With Lucas and his tendon, we are trying not to push him too much. We don't want, again, as he had a setback 2 weeks ago. The solution to the bench today was we played with 3 midfielders, only had the 2 strikers. We have many young players. This game is difficult for all players, and for young players, much more difficult. And he then proceeded to laugh to himself when the prospect of being Spurs called a title contender was mentioned in the room. I mean, I think, again, it's quite damning, again, that, as Vass said earlier, Lee, still doesn't really trust that bench. And again, just a little slight dig there saying that, the solution wasn't really on the bench today. Are you shocked by those comments, or out on the back of a night like that, is it difficult to really try and offer balance when I'm sure as a manager he's frustrated because I said earlier, chance was there tonight to go 10 points clear of a United side?
Yeah, for sure. I think I think he probably hates losing more than what most of us do, to be honest. The way he is, so he can't. He's probably regulating. What he did at Burnley, because like I said at the top of the show, I thought that was as bad, if not worse, than the Burnley result, and he nearly walked out on that and that presser, as we all know. I think he's right to have a couple of digs at some of the players, or allude to that fact. He's not going to dig them out, is he? Who was bad, and he's not going to do that. He's certainly not going to do that in public, for sure. And like Matty said earlier, and like I said right at the top of the show, I think we've all said it. So for the new people coming to listen to the show now, everyone apart from Lloris was utterly abysmal. Everyone. So you can say, oh, it was Dyer, it was this, everyone was rubbish. They were rubbish tonight, and that's the reality. I think moving forward, I don't like personally, I don't like our manager, talking about the fact that we're miles off where we need to be. I don't like that. I don't think that he says that in the dressing room. Personally, I think the dressing room message is completely different. And when you start to analyse the stats around Liverpool versus Spurs, who were one of the teams that were 20 points clear of us last year, we're 10 points clear of them now. So I think at the end of the day, 11 games in, and we've already got a 10-point swing. You can't say that we're that far away. We're also, other than, and obviously they've got a game in hand now, but we've just had defeat. But we're on the same points as Man City at this point. So it's really difficult. You know, you can, again, swings about half glass full, half glass empty. But you know, the facts are there to see. We have 100% improved our performances since Antonio Conte walked into his football club. There's no doubt. We've also 100% improved our squad. Like we've actually have. If he's saying that Lucas isn't quite fit and they don't want to risk him, we've got Lucas, Richarlison, and Kulusevski injured effectively. Now that's taken 3 really important players. Maybe Lucas is a backup, but ultimately that's the point, isn't it? If you've got Kulusevski and Richarlison unfit, you want your backup to come in. But if he's unfit as well, that's a major problem. And if that's what he's saying, which it sounds like that's what he is, then go and take three major players out of anyone's squad, and that's going to hurt. You know, you go again. I don't want to talk about other clubs. In fact, forget that, because that's just going to annoy myself by talking about it. So you know, but that's the point, isn't it? The point is that at the moment, in where he's coming from, is that we've got some bare bones. Now we could say, oh, we didn't sign many players in, but everyone was happy with Richarlison, good signing. Everyone was happy with the sign of Bentancur and Kulusevski. Of course, Kulusevski's been amazing. But the 3-4-3 has suffered without Kulusevski in it. Does everyone agree with that? I mean,
totally agree. It gives us a balance to the team that I don't think any player can really give us. Kulusevski's massive for this side. Can I just say, guys, I have to apologise tonight. We've had over 70 listener questions coming to Last Word on Spurs. I can see Vass looking at me saying, don't you dare read 70 out. I won't be Vass, don't worry. What I will say is I'm going to read just a couple of them tonight. Nathan Lumber says, naive on the pitch, runs to make changes for the bench, worst performance of the season, changes to the starting 11, and big reaction needed on Sunday. David Taylor says, tonight I feel was a result of the burnout, or is there a deeper reason why we go to the away grounds of the top 6 and can't get results? Force says, why? Stephen Peters says the playback of the match tomorrow for the players surely has to be 18 rated. That was truly a horror show. And as my question is, why are we still poor away from home? Look, I could read so many out, but again, a lot of them are kind of going on the same thing that we have touched upon here. I just want to touch upon, Vass, over to you, that we end that first half with United having more shots in the first half than they've managed against any other team any other team this season under Erik ten Hag. 19 in total. We were extremely lucky to be level going into half-time. Was there any positives, Vass, apart from the fact Spurs hadn't conceded from that half, or did you have any optimism going into that second half out of interest, bearing in mind how poor that first half was?
Well, I was glad to see half-time, put it that way. So there was no real positives from the first half. I did kind of hope that we'd come out better in the second half, because we've done that before, where we've had a poor first half and we've come out better in the second half. But then when you come out and you can see the goal within 2 minutes, it just kills it, doesn't it? And we didn't seem to have the character to react from it. Our play was still awful, really. We just couldn't get any passing going, any prolonged spells of possession. Manchester United was swarming us, and we couldn't handle it.
Agree. Well, listen, for everyone's sake, we are going to go for our next break of the show for our listeners and audio. For our watching audience that are still here, there's still over 700 to 800 of you taking in therapy on Last Word on Spurs. As always, thank you ever so much for all of your incredible support. Just a reminder, if you do need one, that we are delighted to be sponsored by NordVPN. Of course, Nord, they are a virtual private network giving you the opportunity, as we've said throughout this season, that when you go home and away with Tottenham, you can, of course, change your virtual location settings. It means that when you're going away to, obviously, we've still got, hopefully, Champions League football to come and much more this season, you can still watch your favourite programmes when you're abroad, the likes of Sky Sports. It's still available, BT Sport, of course, as well, or any other programmes you want to watch. You have got the opportunity to
highlights, though, via Match of the Day.
Yeah.
Tonight. And NordVPN tonight, Ricky, is definitely not Harry Kane of VPNs.
Yeah, it's not as, and it definitely ain't as reliable as Romero as well. God,
Definitely not. Right.
That free kick he gave away, I tell you. Just a reminder, you can get your discount right now, nordvpn.com/LWS to get yourself a huge discount, plus 4 months free. It is exclusively risk-free with Nord's 30-day back money guarantee. Right, we have to talk about the goal, guys, and then we're going to, like I say, look ahead to Newcastle. Better things to come, fingers crossed, we hope. Matty, let's come over to you. We're only a minute into that second half. And Brendan, we've just dusted ourselves down from half time. You've got over, Matt, what you've tweeted or tried to, and then they go and put in a fireball to it, Matt, or a flamethrower to it. United go and take the lead. Dyer gives away the ball. United are working their way into the Spurs box, and Fred's shot takes a deflection off Davis to wrong foot Lloris. I mean, if there was ever a typical goal Spurs could concede away to Manchester United, I promise you, Matty, I'm sure you agree, that was it.
Yeah, every season we've played United at Old Trafford, we've conceded a goal like that. Look, when we beat them 6-1, the individual error led to a penalty. It's written in stone when we go there. It was what you need after the half that we had and trying to actually wrestle a way back into the game. Is you need to be resilient in the first 5-10 minutes of the half, and you need to slowly be able to grow back into the game. And in the first 60 seconds of the second half, we were actually properly opened up more than we were in the first half. And it was, again, I tweeted out about Davis kind of just dangling a leg out of it. It was a lame attempt at him to stop the shot. If you're going to block it, put your body in the line, actually throw yourself in front of the ball. He dangled out a leg, and without it, Lloris makes that save. But it was the absolute disaster start to that half, and I think the script was written from there. Like I mentioned earlier, the lack of any actual guile and any threat going forward from us. It didn't ever feel like that was going to change. And at that point, when United get the goal, where there might have been a bit of frustration if they missed a couple of chances like that at the start of the half, and with their shots, whistling wide or being tipped over the bar by Lloris, that frustration that might have set in with the crowd starts affecting the players, and that's then when we can kind of make a way back into the game. But we gave them exactly what they needed. And yeah, like you said, just typical Spurs at Old Trafford.
Lee, I just wonder for you, when you look at that goal we've conceded there, isn't it worrying the way they kind of walk there? I know I think Ali Gold put it so well obviously on his live blog. He said they walk their way through the middle of the Spurs defence uncontested. Header in the middle of the park. I mean, I know the goal was poor in the aspect of how it's gone in its typical Spurs go away from home against a top six, but it's just the way, Lee, that we've started again a second half where we have not woken up, right? Conte must have got in there, given the hairdryer treatment. We know Spurs were actually out earlier than United at the start of that second half. And still, Lee, first minute in, we should be bang at it, ready to go and prove a point in that second half, and we concede after a minute. What is this mentality, Lee? Where is that mentality?
I don't know, Rick. I completely agree with you. This is what does my nut in. I mean, I know we lost a great man recently, Jean-Pierre, but, the Marine, in terms of the fitness and getting everybody, fit as a fiddle and running through walls and all that type of stuff. Where is it? We're not going to see the benefit of that until the latter stages of the season. Is this part of the plot? It's just we grind it out for the first half of the season so that, when the business end of the season comes, we can smash it? Because I can't get it. If we are the fittest we've ever been, and there's some players in there that look damn bloody fit, let's be honest about it. If we're the fittest we've ever been, why aren't we at it? Straight off from the bat, from kickoff first half. And then, as you say, in second half, why aren't we at it? They've just breezed through us. Panic FC we are. Panic bloody FC. We don't know what to do. Oh, panic. And then a poxy deflection as well. I mean, it's classic Tottenham away from home at the top six. Classic Spurs. They get a bit of fortune, get a bit of luck. Not taking anything away from United, by the way. I thought they were outstanding.
Yeah, can we just say United were excellent tonight? Just because I know people were listening to this and watching it. United were excellent tonight. They were superb.
Rick, it is important to underline that 100%. They deserved. They created that scenario. They got it because they were on the front foot and they made it happen. And we got what we deserved because we created the situation where we were pedestrian, slow, on the back foot, and we got what we deserved. And that's where style and all that sort of stuff, I suppose, comes into it. The fact of the matter is, we've got to have some sort of belief that we can go into the second half and start on the front foot and go after it. I mean, I said on the WhatsApp group, didn't I, Rick? At the end of the day, the first goal is going to be crucial in this football match.
Yep.
Lo and behold, was it 17 seconds or whatever? It was 30, 70 seconds. Bang, they're 1-0 up,
Yep.
and you think, oh, for crying out loud, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, Vass, coming over to you, it does feel an aspect, Vass, that when you continue to allow shots from the opposition box, something's going to eventually go in, isn't it? And, again, we have this thing about, goals against top six sides and manner of them. Again, it's another one of those goals. I mean, Vass, are you concerned away we'd just not alert second half? We should be at it, shouldn't we, from minute one? Conte has given them some treatment at half time there. What do you think for you?
Yeah, but I mean, even their second goal was, I think Dyer tried to chest it down
Yep. Yeah, he
to
lost the ball.
Højbjerg about 25 yards out or however far he was, and we ended up just losing possession. I mean, it was just sloppy everywhere. You just hope to see something from your team, something productive, passes to get into a good position to achieve something in the game. But we just weren't on it at all today. It's really, really frustrating. And of course, there is a long way to go in the season, and you
absolutely.
can have off performances like we have had tonight, and you can overcome these setbacks. But it's really frustrating when you see it, when you go into a game like this in good form against a team who apparently were not in good form.
Yep.
And you make them look like world beaters. That says something about you. And I think I hope Conte and all the players take a long, hard look at themselves tonight and try and understand why they didn't turn up, like Lee said, because it was poor. They was second to everything almost.
Yeah, I mean, talk about second to everything, Matty. At one point, we had Basuma Romero going to head the same ball. I mean, if you could ever sum up tonight, Matt, a situation where Spurs just over the park, really, as Lee said, panic FC. That was it. We got two players contesting for the same ball, not even the awareness of where they were, Matt. I mean, again, that's actually before we concede the second goal. Did you ever feel at any point, Matt, after conceding the first, we're going to get back into the game? I'm just intrigued to know it from you. Not really.
I think that the word to describe it all was they were just flustered. They saw what was in front of them, and it's like they just accepted before they ever even really tried that it wasn't going to happen. We weren't going to get back into it. I was on a show yesterday, and we were speaking about whether or not Conte's style of play was boring. And I said, from a Spurs perspective, we've seen this team for a year or two now. At literally any moment, can turn defense into a goal. Yeah, we could have these blistering counterattacks. So even as a Tottenham fan, when we are parking the bus, if you want to call it that, you're sitting in the edge of your seat, you're expecting something to happen. That wasn't there tonight, especially in that second half. You didn't feel as though we had anything, we had enough to break forward and to actually cause that United team any issues. And from a fan perspective, our emotions are going to be either side. Like Lee said, it's either we're the best team in the world or the worst team in the world. We always go to those extremities. But the fact that the players seem to feel the same is really, really concerning. They seem to think it just wasn't going to happen. Even maybe putting a pop shot from distance, test De Gea. He's not on, he's not the keeper he used to be. It just wasn't there. And that's, like I said, the two players got up for the ball together. It was just everyone was flustered, everything was frantic, trying to sort things out in a way that it was just never really going to work. And we've seen it before, we'll see it again, but. Yep. Again, I just want to say, as Skunkworks said, there's not a light at the end of the tunnel. I was going to say there is light at the end of the tunnel because we've come back from this in the past, but
like you said, Matt. I mean, it's 2 defeats in 16, so we clearly have shown a resilience, to come back. And listen, discussing the second goal, we're then going to move on to Newcastle. I mean, look, this is the thing, isn't it, Lee? Just as we look like we're getting a foothold in the game, Spurs concede again. As Vass mentioned, we had Dyer kind of teed the ball up for Fernandes and to kind of curl the ball home. I mean, it was a really good finish from Fernandes, but again, it's Spurs, the architects of their own downfall, Lee. That's the way I can describe Tottenham as always. The architects of their own downfall for that second goal again.
Look, just classic Spurs, isn't it, Rick? It's so annoying. How many times you said that throughout our lives and obviously tonight as well.
Our last one on Spurs.
I'm a bit of a saddo, right? I don't know whether anyone else does this because I'm a bit of a saddo, but I watched the Spurs training, right, on Spurs play. subscribe to that. I watch the Spurs training on that. You know what I mean? If I'm walking the dog out, I'll have it on my thing. And they do this thing, right? I don't know what it's called. It's probably a coaching thing, but they have some of them have the bibs on, some of them don't. They do this one-touch passing thing where it's almost like pig in the middle, and they're pinging the ball really quick. Anyone watch this? Somebody in the comments tell me what that's called. Ping, 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 and they're trying to get the ball.
Rondo, I think.
Yeah, Rondo, right? Where's that in the match? Like, what you know, I tell you what they don't do in training. This is factual, because I watch it, because I'm sad though. What they don't do in training is they don't walk about, right, with their heads low, and they pass the ball like this slow person. Rondo, thank you. So many Rondos going on. I'm loving it. Yes, Rondos, quality. Thank you, viewers. Obviously, listeners, that won't make sense, but everyone's just told me it's Rondo, including the wonderful Matty Hayes. But what they don't do in training is they don't walk around like slow, like a snail, pedestrian, walking it back. Where is the fast, rapid Rondos in the game? But where is it? I don't see it. 1, 2, bang, bang, bang. When they're in tight situations, Rondo, bang, 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 really quick. Not happening. I just don't get it, Rick. And, you know, like you say, the second goal, downfall, you know, by that point, surely you've got to be thinking in your head, ping, 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 Rondo, 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 let's go. Like, surely, you know, there's nothing else. Something's got to change. You've got to get yourself 15, 16, 20 yards further up the pitch, and you've got to have a go at some point. But we didn't at all. I don't think we had a shot on target in the second half, mate.
No, I mean, the only way I can describe it, Conte was stood motionless, hand in his pocket after that second goal winning. He looked defeated. We then had to get another wonderful save from Lloris tonight, Rashford, who, to be fair, I mean, he's the only player, Lloris, that can come out of this game with any shred of credit. And like I say, we're not going to do player ratings because how can you rate any players on the back of that tonight? But just to close it, Vass, come over to you. Fernandes rounding the goalkeeper, flag went up for offside. And then finally, we saw Lucas Sanchez, Sessegnon, coming on for Basuma, Dyer, and Doherty. Skip was about to come on, then got sent back to warm up, and then eventually we had Skip and Spence come on. That meant all the 5 subs had been made. It did feel a bit like Arsenal vibes with those subs warmed up, ready to come on. I mean, Vass, again, did that just feel like we're just...
Give up vibes, wouldn't it? Give up vibes, wouldn't it, Rick?
I mean, did it feel like for you, Vass, that we kind of, again, like I say, throwing the towel in, those are the subs, and then kind of let's get the boys ready again for Newcastle now? Is that what it felt like for you?
Yeah, I think so. He did that. Who did he do it against?
Arsenal. Obviously done it at the Emirates. Oh, did he do it last season as well? I think
no, there was a game recently that we lost and he chucked on about 5 subs at the same time.
We done it against Arsenal. Was it? It wasn't one of the Champions League. Wasn't one of the Champions League games? Was it? I'm trying to think.
Oh,
he obviously done it against Arsenal.
Yeah, he did it tonight, and it's almost a signal like he's throwing in the towel, you know. But it was late in the game. I guess the game was over. But for fans, we still want our team to fight to the very last, like we did against Leicester that time that you mentioned earlier.
Yep.
Because you never know what can happen in football. But we just didn't look like anything was going to happen tonight, Rick.
No, I agree. I want to put all of you out of your misery. I think, like I said, we're going to go straight to Newcastle to review it. So for our listeners on audio, we are going to go for our final break of the show. Taking to this break, you're going to hear from the wonderful Matt Ketchell, who is a brilliant podcaster, YouTuber for Newcastle. He gives you his thoughts on the back of them winning a late game tonight as well. They've beaten Everton by 1-0. Matty, let's start with you. So Newcastle on really good form at the moment, really good form under Eddie Howe, winning tonight against Everton. They're currently in the moment in the table for them. They find themselves, get this, Newcastle, 18 points after 11 games. They are in a position now where they're just 2 points off the top 4. They are quite simply loving life under Eddie Howe. Bearing in mind, we thought Everton was going to be a tricky battle, and we did come through that at home. How tricky is this game going to be, Matty, come the weekend for Tottenham? Eddie Howe's Newcastle coming to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Oh, it's going to be very tough. You know, they're a team that, like you said, they're flying high. The mentality is there, the positivity there. Everything you want in a football club is there at the moment. The only concern I would have for them is injury wise. You know, Alexander Isak is now out for until the new year, really, and they're a Callum Wilson injury away from having Chris Wood as their main striker in their pursuit of European football. So things can change very, very quickly. But you now have Miguel Almiron, who's starting to chip in with goals, which you hadn't quite seen in the past, and obviously a fantastic midfield there with Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton. You know, it is a very well balanced team, and I kind of said when they appointed Eddie Howe that he wouldn't be the man to get them to that next level, and he was a stopgap. But he's doing a very, very good job there. And going to Old Trafford last week or on Sunday, getting a point, I think it looks a lot better now than it did at the time with the way United played tonight. But it's the type of game where we need a reaction, and it's not the ideal game that you'd see on your calendar after a game that we had tonight, but it's also not one that you'd be praying to avoid. If we were playing another one of the top 6, especially away from home, I'd be thinking, God, how do I get myself into work for that day so I don't have to watch it? But it's a game where there is something there that we can react, and if we're on it, we should be able to come out of that with 3 points, and our home record is going to be crucial in this.
Absolutely agree.
Is it 10, 11 wins in a row now at home?
Yeah.
We need to rely on that. We need to rely on the fans to be able to pull us through. But in the same way, if we have a poor first half, we're going to be booed off the pitch, especially with the way that we played tonight, and that's when things start to turn a little bit toxic. So it can really, really go either way, and I don't want to sit in the fence. I think it will go in the way that we want to see it go, but it could still be a dangerous game for us.
Let's grab a prediction for you, Matt, if we can. What are you going to go for?
Oh God, don't make me do this. I will go 2-0 Spurs.
I can see Vass is dreading me asking for his prediction.
Rick,
so Vass,
you got to stop doing predictions, mate.
Sack it off. Vass, it's customary on last one. I'm supposed to be there for 5-6 years.
Customs are there, Vass, thrown in the bin.
Vass, I'm taking away the player ratings for you. Don't make me take these away as well. Vass, let's come over to you, because Newcastle under Eddie Howe, when he took over, they were 19th, no Premier League wins. You fast forward now, Newcastle in October 2022, they're 6th. And they're 2 points off 4th. He's done a remarkable job there, Vass. This is not going to be an easy game. What do you expect the outcome to be on the basis of how Spurs have played tonight at Old Trafford?
Mate, I'll be slitting my wrist later and saying we're going to lose on Sunday as well. But no, you've got to fancy Spurs at home, and you've got to fancy Spurs to have put this one behind them and show a reaction on Sunday. If they don't show a reaction on Sunday, then we're in some deep doo-doo. So I'm going to go for a home victory. I'm not going to put a score on it, but it's going to be a tough game, no question.
Okay, that's the best you can get out of Vass. Home victory. We'll let Vass get away with that one. Lee, come over to you, mate. You'll be there, of course, at the weekend. Big game for Spurs on Sunday. King Hoddle very kindly puts up the record here for Spurs. 10 home wins in a row, scored 27, conceded 7. I can tell you we are going to need Spurs song sheets, GHFC flags to give us some backing for Sunday, because on the back of that tonight, there'll be lots of Spurs fans, including us, so downbeat. I don't know how we've got through this. It's been a really difficult show to do. Probably our toughest so far this season. And I include Arsenal into that, just for how lethargic that display was. Lee, thoughts on the weekend? Bear in mind how good Newcastle are at the moment. Like I say, as we say, Newcastle currently at the moment, they are 6th in the Premier League, 2 points off the top 4. This is not going to be easily, is it?
No, I don't think any game's easy in the Premier League. But Eddie Howe comes to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium at the weekend, parks a bus, gets beaten, and then is Newcastle fans calling for his head? But after the remarkable what he's just done, was he 19th? You said now he's put him 6th. Well, yep. What were we? We were 9th, and we finished 4th, and we've got 79 points from 38 Premier League games with a plus goal difference of 48. Yet people calling for Conte's head. So I don't know, does it work? I don't know if the other clubs it works the same way. I'm supremely confident because of King Hoddle's stats. I was going to say them as well. We are a different beast at home. The last time we lost was a 1-0 92nd minute winner by Brighton at home in the Premier League. I think we're a different beast at home. I think the fans make a huge difference, and fair play to all of us, in the stadium. And obviously last year we absolutely ruined them 5-1, and we went 1-0 down, by the way, if you remember, classic Spurs. So I'm predicting 3-1 Tottenham. I think we will concede, because I think we're going to, after that display tonight, we're going to have to come out on the front foot and give it. If we score first 10, 15 minutes, I think we control the game and do well. If we come out lackluster, and let's have it right. I wasn't on the pod on the weekend. You gave me a day off for it. Thank you for that. So with the old Everton game, it's too late to get home. But we were shocking in that first half as well, really. Let's be honest about it in that Everton game. So we've got to stop coming out in the first half and just doing some pedestrian rubbish. Come out and do Rondo. Is it Rondo, mate? Rondo. Come out, do Rondo, get involved, get on the front foot, score early, get the crowd up, and go smash them 3-1.
Yeah.
They don't create huge amounts of chances at Newcastle. It's not as if, even tonight against a well-drilled Everton side, to be fair, they've only created, 4 shots on target, so 4 chances or so. So I'm going 3-1, Rick. What more importantly, mate, what are you going for, buddy? Come on. Give us your prediction, Rickster.
I'm going to go for an edgy 2-1. I'm going to go for a very edgy 2-1, but I tell you, it's going to be tight. It really is going to be tight. I must say again, thank you so much for all your support tonight. I've had over about 800, 900 of you watching us live on the back of a real disappointing display from Spurs in the Premier League. We'll be back with you on Sunday for instant reaction to Spurs against Newcastle at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Hopefully celebrating the Spurs win. McQueen's going to be there in full force, probably in the Beavertown on the Laser Crush. Lee, thank you so much,
mate. All the non-alcoholics now. Oh, you've got to be honest, right? The Beavertown Laser Crush IPA is fantastic. Non-alcoholic IPA. Get involved in some of that. And if alcohol's still your beef, then fantastic. Go get a bit of neck oil. Go down there, get a bit of Gamma. It's fantastic, mate. Beavertown corner. I'll tell you what, St. Rick. It's bang opposite the South Stand. I tell you that.
It is, yeah. Let's hope we're ready to play there. I tell you, let's hope we're ready to play on Sunday. Big game, Lee.
Thank you. To cut you off. I know you're finishing up, but look, right. There's still loads of us watching, and we're all passionate, and that's the whole point about it. But the fact of the matter is that we all want the same for our football club. Don't let it ruin our next few days. It's gone. It was disgusting. It stunk the place out. Let's get rid of that smell. Let's look forward to going down to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday and getting the big 3 points, and we're back in the mixer. Then it's Champions League. Then we're back in the mixer, and we can go and do that stuff. And we've got it in our locker to go on a game, 3, 4, 8, 10, 12 game run of winning streak or not losing streak. That's important. We can do it. I know that lot down the road are doing really well. Don't worry about them. Let's just concentrate on us.
Thanks, Macca. We needed that. Wonderful Lee McQueen as always. Lee, thank you so much. Vass, thank you, mate. I know it's late. Appreciate it as always. Listen, we love the Doctor Tottenham pod. Vass, where can we find it very quickly?
Yeah, Doctor Tottenham pod. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere where you get your podcasts. Tune in and give us a listen. It'd be great to have some of you along. Thank you.
Hopefully, Vass, less therapy, more joy. Fingers crossed. Thank you so much, mate.
So.
Appreciate it as always, Vass. Lovely to have you on, Vass. Thank you so much, mate. We're looking forward to having you back on throughout the season. And Matty, it's never easy, but you do make it look easy despite a win or a loss. Thank you so much, mate, as always. Appreciate all the therapy, all the pick-me-ups tonight. Loved it. Thanks so much, mate.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure on here with you, Ricky, and with Lee and Vass as well. Pleasure chatting with you, lads.
Thank you, mate. Well, listen, guys, from Lee, from Vass, from Matt, myself, guys, as always, please keep safe, keep well. We're back with you on Sunday. And as always, come on, you Spurs.